Hey, this is James, the XD Man, and I'm here with a quick tech tip. Today we're going to be talking about the Springfield OSP slides, and they come with a plate or they could come with a red dot. I'm going to teach you some tips and tricks of how to get those plates on and off, or get the red dot on and off, let's say if you have to change a battery, without ripping the screws, without messing anything up. So the first tip that I want to give you is let's take a look at the tools involved. Now, they give you some Allen keys, the Torx or the regular hex, and I don't really recommend these. Basically, when you go to put them on, you don't have very much leverage, and you could slip and strip out those tops. Even if you go the long ways, you don't really have the leverage you need to go ahead and push into there. That's why I love the all-in-one screwdriver or longer handle versions, because you're able to, check it out, I can put my hand in there and just push down into and drive the screw out. I'm able to reach in there and push down into it at the same time as I'm turning, and I've got plenty of leverage. That way nothing slips out and just boogers the heads up. Second thing I want to mention is that when you get some Allen heads, sometimes they'll round off. When they round off, you don't really want to use them because you'll start to round off your screw heads. So if you take a look at this one, what I've done there is the next tip. This is one of the only times that I recommend using a Dremel tool. You can actually cut the tip off and get to new shoulder. So let's go ahead and do that real quick, and I'll show you how quick that is. So now when we go back, check it out. I've got all new shoulder. Now you could clean it up a little bit, but you're now able to get really good purchase in there. Even with the Torx bit screwdriver, I was able to do the same thing, extending the life of my tools instead of using one that's rounded off. Now that we went through that, let's take a look at the screws themselves. I like to use a pattern. And what I mean by that, you go top to bottom, bottom to top, or left, right, vice versa. Think about it like a car tire. When you're taking a tire on and off, they always tell you to go in a star pattern. There's a reason they tell you to do this. So let's say if we're talking about this plate right here and we remove the screw all the way. If you do that, it creates a little bit of springiness pressure when that plate or red dot moves. When you take out the one side, it just moves ever so slightly, and it creates a mechanical lock as well as the Loctite lock bonding that's on that other screw, and it just makes your life even harder. So to go against that and make your life easier, you're going to want to start on one side and just barely turn it, just to break the bond. Then you go to the next one, and I'm pushing in and just barely turning to break the bond. A little bit more. Go to the next, a little bit more. Now I go to the bottom one, and remember I'm pushing in, and now the screws are completely loose. I also love an all-in-one unit that's magnetized, because it just pulls that screw right out without you having to dig it out. So now I want to show you what I'm talking about the Loctite. See that blue Loctite that's in there? That's in there from the factory. Now there's not much, but it is in there to help the screws from falling out. So use a bigger tool and go back and forth a little bit at a time. and it'll make your life that much more easier. One thing to note on these Hellcat OSP slides, this is polymer. So a lot of times I'll recommend if those screws are just completely stuck, go ahead and use something like a propane torch to get them out. Now, since that's polymer, you only want to do that as a last resort when you've done stripped out the screws, something like that. And you're never going to use that plate again. But since that's polymer, you don't want to do that. You also don't want to do that with your red dot. The Shield RMSc comes with a polymer lens in there. So you want to keep the heat away from that and just use proper techniques to get those out. Again, to change this battery, so I've carried this Hellcat for over a year and my battery's dead. Let's go through the procedure of getting that on and off. So where the factory plates are a T10 Torx, the RMS screws, they're 2.5 millimeters. They're metric, not American standard. 2.5 millimeters. Again, I want to use the same technique. Start on one side and push down. And did you hear that little snap? It broke the bond. Just enough to break the bond. Now, by the way, if I would have used that with the rounded off area on there, you saw how tight those were on there on that RMSc, on that Hellcat, we would have stripped those screws out even more because this is already rounded and we would have started to round off our screws. So using the right tool, a bigger tool, refreshing that tool and putting pressure down into it helped save any more trouble. And once you get it loose, try to stay out of the way of the camera. Oh, look at that. Comes out with ease. Comes out with ease. So now we're going to want to take our red dot and just pop the bond, and our battery fell out. One thing I want to show you is that the factory Shield battery comes with a sticker on the back. You're going to want to put the stickers, if you look in your package for the RMSc, they'll give you some extra stickers that they want you to put on your new battery. Basically what that does is, depending on the battery brand, there are different tolerances, and it helps bridge that gap underneath to fill in any voids if there are any. So you're going to want to take your new 2032 battery and you're going to want to put the sticker back on the flat side. And when you put it in, the flat side faces down or touches the flat of the slide. So that's how you could remember. The flat of the slide goes with the flat of the battery. And when we push that battery in there, we could already see that the Shield works. So go ahead and put that red dot back with the battery flat to flat. And what I like to do is just seat that red dot. Wiggle it back and forth, push it down in there, and get everything to seat nice and properly. So now we're going to take our one screw, sit it in, take our second screw, sit it in, and we're going to want to use that pattern again. So I'm going to start on the bottom one as I'm looking at it, and just till you catch that bite of the slide. Now, you'll sit there and you'll turn and you'll turn and you'll turn forever and never hit the slide. This is why I always tell you use a bigger tool, because you can put that pressure in it. So now I'm going to push down as I turn, and immediately I felt it catch. Immediately I felt it catch. And I'm going to want to put equal torque on each one. All right. And you don't want to kill this. You only want to put it down till it's tight, hand tight, and just a little bit more. You don't want to sit there and use an impact wrench and drill it into place. It doesn't need that. This thing isn't going anywhere. Remember that the screws had a little bit of Loctite on them. to help it stay in place. So now the last thing we need to check is, oh, there's our red dot. Yeah, everything's back and working. Now, I'm going to take a Q-tip in there and clean the dust out, blow it out, and make sure that it's clean because it is dusty. But we got our new battery in there and we're good for another year. So remember, when you take these plates off, use a pattern, use bigger tools, and don't be afraid to refresh your tools to get a new shoulder, whether it's the Torx bit or your Allen keys. And that was James, the XD Man.